Your neighbor Jim figured out that with MetroPCS, he gets unlimited data, talk, and text for $30, period.
Babe, that color looks awesome.
Just like he figured out that shopping with his wife will buy him a night with his buddies. That's Guys Night Out, figured out. You too figure it out. Switch to MetroPCS on the fast 4G LTE T-Mobile network for only $30, period. MetroPCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Plan includes first 1 gigabyte of data at up to 4G LTE speeds. See store or metropcs.com for details and terms and conditions and data management info.
Blog Talk Radio.
Those who dare to travel in the spaces between the lines. This is Shadow Travels with your hosts, Kevin Cook and Ray Cezone.
Hey everybody, and welcome to week number 3 of our podcast, Shadow Travels. Kevin and Ray here, and we're going to be taking a little bit of a different format tonight and probably for the next couple of weeks. We thought what we might do every week from this point on is talk about some kind of paranormal news, so to speak. And we're going to start off big time tonight, and we've gotten a lot of comments on this already, but our topic will be black-eyed kids, which has been a very interesting and very creepy paranormal experience for people that have had it. At the same time, we're also going to be bringing in Cory Heinzen from Maine Paranormal Society. He's going to call in just a couple minutes, so we'll be talking to him about his group. We'll be listening to some of the stories he has about his investigations, and we'll get his insight on the whole black-eyed kids phenomena. So just check in and make sure Ray's there.
I'm here, Kevin, and I'm very excited about tonight's show, and I'm excited to hear what people have to see or have to say. You know, we're very excited to hear your comments, to see your comments on the Facebook page, you know, call in. The black-eyed kids is an interesting phenomena that we definitely want to hear what your thoughts are. You know, what's scarier than kids? And then, you know, if you know about this, it gets even creepier.
And most certainly, if you've had an experience, please call in or please post a message to either of our pages, either the Syracuse Area Paranormal page or the Shadow Travels page. You could also call in at area code 516-387-1922, and I believe it'll ask you to press 1 if you'd like to come on air and speak to us, and we'll see that on the switchboard so we can click over to you. Also, feel free to ask any questions of Cory when he calls in as well about his group. So, Ray, just while we're waiting for Cory to call in here, having done some research on the black-eyed kid phenomena, it is quite the story, as you said. I'll give the listeners a little bit of a background here. It's really hard to pinpoint from what I've come across specifically when it would start, when the story started, but everybody kind of points to a blogger, a reporter by the name of Brian Bethel, who's a writer for the Abilene Reporter News. It's an internet site that's associated with USA Today. He's a senior staff writer there. Back in 1996, Brian had an experience with black-eyed children. And as the story goes, and I'll kind of sum up the story for everybody, he was in his car. He was writing out a bill to pay for his internet service in Abilene when he was approached by 2 kids, as 2 boys. And they wanted a ride to a movie that was playing. And at first he didn't think this was anything all that unusual, you know, a little bit apprehensive, but the boys became very insistent. He decided he didn't want to do that. He saw when they looked up that their eyes were pitch black, no pupils, no irises, just completely solid black. And as he started to roll up his window and pull away, you know, according to Brian, they said to him, we can't come in unless you tell us it's okay, and they demanded to be let in, and then he pulled away. It took him 2 years before he reported this story online, and that's kind of what spurred the whole, I guess, phenomenon in 1998 from that point on. Have you come across anything different, or is that basically similar to what you know?
Yeah, as far as what I've seen, you know, just researching this, that's pretty much what I've found. You know, it's more of a current phenomena. You know, some people refer to it as an urban legend, but there are a number of instances, really, not all across the world, really. And as you mentioned, I think it's important for people to know we're not just talking about, you know, really dark eyes. We're talking about complete eye, like no white being seen at all, like complete black eyes. And I know they make contacts. I've seen them on maybe some of our rock stars or people that are more into goth. I haven't seen them lately, actually, but that's not what we're talking about. Younger kids here.
Right, and those are, from what I understand, those are very expensive and have to be, in theory, they're supposed to be prescribed to you, so maybe difficult to come by, especially for a younger kid. I see Corey's called in, so I want to click over to him, and we will bring him on the show right now, and we'll introduce him, and we'll get back into this whole black-eyed kid issue because we have a lot more notes and a lot more things to talk about with him. So let me click over to him, and Corey, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, how you doing? Good to talk to you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great
Corey,
to have you on the show.
Yes.
Now, Corey, I know we talked a little bit before the show. We were, I kind of given you a heads up on what our topic was going to be, and you had mentioned that you didn't have any personal experience with this, but just off the cuff, have you heard any of these stories in your area up in Maine? Have any of these things come up in any of the investigations you've done or people you've talked to?
Honestly, I've yet to hear of a case up around here involving this phenomenon, but in our travels and stuff, we've met a lot of teams and they've discussed stuff regarding it, and I don't know, I don't envy the people that run into it. It just doesn't seem. I mean, this is what we do it for, but at the same time, it just, I don't know, like children of the corn kind of feel to it. So,
right,
exactly what I was thinking of.
From all the stories that I've come across, there seems to be an incredible level of fear with everyone that has had this encounter. That's definitely one of the similarities between all the stories. Is this immense fear and this immense sense of dread when these kids show up or when you run into them.
Wasn't it similar, too? I'm just trying to think. I'm a big horror movie buff. I think in The Omen, I think the kids might have even been portrayed with all black eyes. And if you've seen The Omen, those kids are pretty creepy, too. But I also found a few years ago there was a movie made, and I actually haven't seen it. I'm going to have to check it out, but it's called Beck, I believe, BEK, standing for Black-Eyed Kids.
Right.
That might be interested, or the Black-Eyed Children. We'll have to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I want to go ahead, Corey.
Oh no, I was going to say, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie The Fourth Kind.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
For some reason, that's ringing a bell with them having black-eyed children in that as well. But that's getting into a whole other realm of things, like with UFO phenomenon and stuff like that.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Kevin and I were having a little discussion about, where could this have come from? And, I don't know how much in agreement we are. We talked about kind of more vampirical in nature or alien in nature. I think we might have agreed seems to make more sense to us. But I don't know. We're definitely interested to hear maybe what other listeners, what your thoughts are, or if you've had any experiences. So feel free again if you have had any experience, any of our listeners, feel free to call in or send us a message here.
So in the meantime, while we're waiting, let's shift gears. I want to get over to Corey and let him talk a little bit about his group. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Maine Paranormal Society, Corey? How did it begin? When did it begin? What are some of the major investigations you guys have been on?
Well, Maine Paranormal Society was founded in 2007. I've only been a member for the past 2 years. I was a member of Graves Paranormal for about 3 years before that, and then just dabbled on my own way before that. I've been doing it for just around 7 years now. So as far as investigations, Maine Paranormal Society, we're a TAPS-affiliated group. We're part of the TAPS family network. So we get fed cases through the TAPS website. So
now, how does that work? Because you're the first group that we've come across, and I'm sure there's a lot of them out there that is affiliated with TAPS. Yeah, I'm sure. There's probably hundreds, right? At least. How does that work now? When they feed you a case, do you get? Is there like a pecking order, I guess you could say, or a seniority order of how you get a case, or how does that work?
It's just basically your geographical area. As part of the network, we work hand in hand with each other, and sometimes, like, if there's a team like local to us, that's having a hard time because they're backlogging cases or whatnot, we can step in and assist them. It's never like, hey, our team's like at the top of this pecking order, because there's so many teams. We work great together, and if people have questions, other teams are always available, to help out. So,
right.
Yeah.
Is there a set of rules, or, because it is, I guess, a bit of a more national organization, is there any criteria or rules that you have to meet to be part of it or to agree to? Or?
Oh, yes. We have to have background checks on everybody done once a year. Usually the team leaders take care of that, and then we send it in to I can't remember their title, but we send that into them. Mm-hmm. We have to keep our website up and running, current. We have to send in references from private clients, saying, especially if it was a case that was fed from TAPS, saying that, we help them out, aftercare and stuff like that. So
okay, so there's definitely criteria.
Oh yes, I believe it's gone to 5 years. You had to be a team for 3 years, have a website that's been for 3 years, and there was all kinds of stuff. I never even dreamed of putting in our old team for it, because it was just like, oh, you got to have like so many references and this and that. But I mean, just the hospitality, just how nice they are, taking care of each other, and just having that network available to you at all times. It's like a whole plethora of knowledge, which is great, because
I can imagine.
It's not about the TV show, Yeah, it's great and it can open doors for you and stuff, but there's no professionals in this field. I don't care what your title is. Nobody goes to school for it. If you're not helping out each other, you're part of the problem. So.
Right, that's true. That's a very good point. Ray, did you have anything?
Yeah, I was just wondering. What you mentioned, background checks, and I think we've come across some people over the years who, want to get into this, and I think they often have the idea that it's going to be like it is on television. So I'm curious with the background checks, maybe what some of the things are that you look for. Is it more like mental health? Because I do think there are people who might not be, I'm trying to be politically correct here, as stable as we would want them to be, out on investigations, but also it can be, depending on location, a very physical type of work. So I'm curious if any of that with background checks, if that's a part of it.
I don't believe it goes into the mental health portion. I think it's more of police involvement. I mean, usually when you sit down with the team leader and you sit down with the assistant team leader, whatnot, they get a good feel for you and stuff. And I mean, when you're doing something like this where everybody's paying out of their own pocket and stuff, you should be upfront and honest with them about anything that could, today's day and age, it just seems like everything's mental health. So, why not be upfront and honest? But it's more the police involvement thing, because we don't want anybody that might be like a sex offender or something like that going on a case with us, like to a family's house or something like that. So we have to nip that in the bud before it even starts. But for the most part, they're just making sure you have a clean record, you know, and there's been people I know that have had, you know, like, you know, had no UI or something, but it was like 5-6 years ago. They don't hold that against them as long as you know, hey, you did what you were supposed to do, you know.
Right.
You know, don't screw it up again, because now you're representing something that's so much more than what just you.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, what's your to date, Corey? What's your most memorable investigation you've been on?
Most memorable investigation I've personally been on, it wasn't as part of Maine Paranormal. We went down with a couple team members, but it was just like a group of misfit investigators, we call ourselves, because we're up in Maine and there's nothing up here. There honestly isn't.
Right.
But we went to Penhurst, and it was incredible. I mean, just from the team, you know, the Penhurst Association, you know, they bringing us around and telling stories and stuff, to actually investigating the Mayflower. It was incredible. You know, anybody.
Did you come away with any?
Oh God, yes.
Go ahead.
I mean, I got videos that I won't put out because I look like a chicken. So.
We've heard from a couple of people that Penhurst is quite good, and they do seem to sell out very quickly when they offer up their investigation dates and their tours. So definitely a place that we would like to get to at some point, I think. Now,
definitely.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying you definitely have to. They're excellent. I would suggest doing it on your own, like do it with your team. You know, the public hunts and everything, it's great, but you want it by yourselves. You know, you know, 6-man team or whatever. That's when it's fun.
Now, have you done any other big venues like that? You know, about the size of Penhurst?
We've done Waverly Hills.
How was that?
Honestly, it was nice, but I think it was too hot to really focus on anything. I mean, because it's an open air building, so there was no getting away from the heat. And then the bats were crazy. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff there. Oh my God, the bats were horrible. I mean, you'd hear something and there was a bat, and it's like, son of a bitch.
You must have bats in Maine. Come on.
Yeah, but not during investigations, you know. And the sad thing is, we're paying good money to go to these places, and I mean, it's not a hop, skip, and a jump away for us. You know, we're traveling 30 hours to get to the place, and you know, it's like, shoot.
Yeah, we ran into the same, in a way, the same kind of issue. One of our other investigators and myself, one of our first investigations we did was Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, and same thing. You know, more or less open air type place, and it was the end of March, and it was absolutely freezing, and it was so cold that you really, I mean, it was a great place. I'd go back in a heartbeat, but at that time it was frustrating because we wanted to do more, but it was just too cold. You really couldn't do more. So from the other end of that, I totally get what you're saying in that case.
Now, when you went to Eastern State, because we tried to go to Eastern State, but they had so many, and it's understandable, don't get me wrong, I understand it's a historic site and there's a lot of, you know, but they were only going to open up like 2 wings for us out of the 5 wings, and I was like, man, for that kind of money, you would think you would be allowed to do a little bit more freedom of movement. But,
well, I probably shouldn't say this on the radio if anybody's listening from Eastern State, but we were given a lot. We were told that as well when we actually got there. We were pretty much told, hey, look, just tell us where you're going and stay within earshot. So it was a different scenario when we got there. I want to say we explored. There's probably at least 4 wings that we explored, as well as the underground punishment cells, any of the courtyard, anything outside you could do. They were very, very cool about letting us into anywhere we wanted to go that was safe. There's a lot of places there that are in such bad condition that they're just not safe to go into, which we totally understood, especially in the middle of the night. You know, but it was, you know, they kind of put that out to us, and I was a little hesitant as well, but quite honestly, it was a very different story when we got there.
Yeah, see, we don't know that, and it's hard to make that decision. It's so far of a drive down there, and it's like you get there, and they say that, like, we're getting ready to head down to Tennessee this weekend. We're going to the old
that's what that Josh said. Is it the hospital down there that you guys are going to? Or
Old South Pittsburgh in Tennessee. Kind of weird.
Yep. Yeah, that's supposed to be a pretty good place, from what I hear.
A lot of people say it's a life-changing experience. So we'll. And honestly, for the price, we get the building for 20 hours to ourselves.
Oh wow, that's unreal.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
we'll definitely look into that one.
Yeah.
Ray, go ahead.
No.
Ray, did you have anything you want?
Not at the moment. I'm just monitoring the internet. So again, if people have questions, feel free to get it out either on the Shadow Travels or the Syracuse Area Paranormal Facebook page.
Well, I suppose we should probably get back to our topic of the night. And Corey, if you don't mind, weighing in on this as well when we're discussing it, we'd love to hear your thoughts and things on it. So I'd mentioned at the top of the broadcast where the whole black-eyed kid phenomena supposedly came from, and it was from Brian Bethel's story about his experience. What we've come across on the internet, which is, again, where most of this is, I know there have been books written about it lately. Generally what happens, for those that don't know, is in the middle of the night, there's a knock at the door, could be a doorbell ringing. Somebody in the house gets up, goes to the door, and there's two kids standing on the doorstep. And the ages range basically anywhere from about 8 to about 17. It's usually a boy and a girl, not always. One does most of the talking, and it's almost universal. They ask to use the phone. We need to use the phone. There's always a sense of urgency in their voice. And almost one of the interesting things that I found is that almost all the victims have this incredible sense of dread as they approach the door. And none of them really open it, or they open it just a tiny bit to be able to hear the kids. And then when the kids look up, their eyes are pitch black. And like Ray said, really, the way they describe it online, I should say, is like a solid black almond shape. And even one of the stories I came across, I don't know if you want to call him a victim, but the person who experienced it smelled a mold smell, and the kid asked him if he could please use his telegraph, which I thought was very interesting. To me that would indicate some kind of a time travel aspect or interdimensional kind of aspect to this. Have you basically heard the same thing, Corey, in your experiences?
I've never heard it like down to the nitty gritty like that, but it kind of along the same lines as far as wanting to use like your phone. I've never heard them ask for like a telegraph or something.
Yeah, I did come across that one.
Which is that is pretty neat. But with the smells and stuff, I've never heard that. But it's it's kind of strange that one thing when you're dealing with the darker side of things is the smells. They always talk about the smells. They always they always take the form of something that you won't find offensive.
Exactly.
Find like an older person or an animal or a child.
Right.
Because the minute if you invite them into your house, that's when all hell breaks loose. So.
Right. And I did try to come across some stories about what happens then. There are very few stories from people about what happens when they come in. There's a little bit of a telekinesis aspect to this where they try to do some kind of a mind control. But to be quite honest, the stories are very, very vague in that aspect. Ray, did you come across anything different? Anything?
No, it sounds like we looked at a lot of the same stuff. there are a number of references out there for people who are interested, but for the sake of the show right now, I think that's pretty much what I've seen as well.
Okay.
Again, alleged sightings. There are some that have been taken very seriously by those in the paranormal field, from what I've read. And some people believe they're extraterrestrial. Some have said vampire, and some have just come out and said, ghost or something more on, the demonic side of the spiritual realm.
And which way would you lean, Ray, on this? And I'll ask Corey about him.
It's tough. I've thought about it, and I think I'm not a big extraterrestrial alien type person, but I think that's the way I'm leaning.
How about you, Corey? What do you think?
I would say the same thing, especially with the almond-shaped eyes and stuff. But then there's part of me it just sounds more demonic sometimes. But
yeah,
I guess each case is different. So.
Mm-hmm. A lot of it has been chalked up to being an urban legend, and much like with Ray, I've really gone back and forth on this after doing, just really kind of minimal research on it, to be quite honest. But having heard the stories previously, I found instances of this dating back in history, all the way back to early Asian cultures, back to 16 and 1700s in France. So it does seem to pop up in history every now and then. There was a huge spike here with the reports in 2013. Now, like Ray said, there was a movie that was put out then that could be part of it. I have to say that most of the stories I read, they seem very believable. They were very intricate, and I would find it hard to believe that somebody would take so much time to, put together such a story of it. I guess it's possible. Anything is possible. But that just seems very interesting to me. And I would lean the same way, that maybe this is some type of alien-human hybrid, kind of person. One of the most, I think, perplexing things about this is that there's really no evidence either way, that this is real or this is a hoax. Generally, if it's something, you could find a shred of evidence one way or the other. But I have not come across anything with that. How about you, Ray? Have you found anything that would lead to this being a hoax? Anything that you came across in your research?
No, not yet. And this is going to be something I continue to look into, and I look for that. I when I'm Googling and when I'm searching some of the references that some of the different sites use and the books mention, I look for that. I look for hoax or made up or those kind of buzzwords there. But one thing I want to add too, and I fully believe in the power of the mind, and I think there are a lot of instances. So urban legends, I think they all come from somewhere, something that was very real. So I think there is truth to this, no matter what people's thoughts are. I think there is truth to this in one form or another. But over the years, people start thinking about it. They're putting that energy out there, and I very much believe in the power of, like I said, the power of our thoughts and that energy that we're sending out into the universe. And I think that can conjure or create. If we give it enough credence, it can kind of create whatever it is we're thinking about, that we're believing is out there. I think that's the case with things like Mothman, which will be a future discussion. I think it starts as something very real and tangible, and then it becomes even more real as it's given more power and more people are believing and thinking and, talking about it.
Possibly one of the greatest, I think, examples for our show title, and this certainly was not done on purpose, but we spoke about it the first week of the show, how Ray and I kind of went back and forth on the show title. We wanted to try to incorporate something that wasn't just paranormal, that wasn't just cryptozoology, that wasn't just alien stuff, something somewhere in the middle of that. And I think that this topic certainly does fall in the middle of that. It's really hard to pin down exactly what this may be, except terrifying for the people that have encountered it. And that is definitely the universal feeling on this, I think. Now, Corey, I wanted to ask you, we'll switch back to you for just a bit, and we'll wait to see if anybody has any other calls or or messages coming in via Facebook about the black-eyed kid phenomena. But in Maine, what is the top spot, I would say, to investigate? What's the place that every group really wants to go?
I mean, there's a few lesser known spots up here. We have a place called the Mill Agent's House up in north of Vassalboro, and we also have Parsonfield Seminary. They're not really that well known, but a lot of teams have come up and done events at these places, and have gotten really good results. So, I mean, those are really we deal with one here in our town that nobody has ever come to, but we've investigated for the past 5 years, and it's never ceased to amaze us. So, it's Maine. People still think we're part of Canada, so
right.
Really
yeah, we know. we're kind of in. Yeah. What now? Have you had more luck with your group in public buildings, or do you do private residences as well? I would imagine if TAPS refers cases to you.
Yeah, well, we get a lot of cases, but when we make liaison with the client, as soon as we tell them, hey, look, we're basically the recon element. We're going to come and look at your place, send our findings to, the bigger guys to see if they think it's, good enough or whatever, and they usually don't want to have nothing to do with us. So it's basically everybody wants to be on TV, so it's, usually we lose more cases that way, but then sometimes, we'll get a case here or there, so.
Now, Ray, did we have a question come in? I thought I saw something. Did something pop up on the page?
No, just a comment.
Oh, okay. All right. What would you consider, Corey, to be one of the most troubling cases you've been on? Maybe one that you want to go back because you don't either feel like you did a good enough job, or there's something that's just you feel like there's just something missing there that you need to go back and find out.
We're dealing with a case right now, a couple towns over from us, that some kids have stumbled across. I don't even know where to begin with it, but just the whole thing with Slender Man and stuff kind of opened up people's eyes to that whole side of things and the power of persuasion and stuff like that.
Right.
But then, looking at the mental health thing. Anyways, all said and done, these kids are going out to the woods and making friends with these, and I'm not going to say black-eyed children because black eyes have not come up in these conversations, but children's spirits wanting to be friends and stuff like that, but now they're starting to ask for things of these kids. And when I say kids, I'm talking 13, 14-year-olds, a little bit older, a little bit more wiser, not younger ones. And they're saying, kill your mom, bring your brother and sister, a 2-year-old brother and a 3-year-old sister, bring them to come meet us and stuff like that. And it's
really?
Yeah, and this is being documented with psychiatrists. I don't know.
I know you can't obviously there's a lot of confidentiality in something like this, but is it a large number of kids that are going out there, or is it just is it 2?
It's 3.
It's 3, okay. And and have you sat down and talked to these kids? Would you say that they're, in your opinion, they're more or less a sound mind and body, that what they're saying is believable?
I've only gotten to speak with one, and the mother was the one that contacted us about it because she had an outburst at her therapy sessions because she had a traumatic experience when she was the daughter had a traumatic experience when she was younger. So she, the therapist knows our psychic very well because our psychic used to work in mental health, and she the therapist actually contacted us as well as the mother, and said, you know, you might want to take a look at this. And when the child starts, you know, blabbering about stuff that she's never done before, doesn't know where it's going, and just the violence and stuff like that, telling she wants to kill them all, and it's not good.
Have these kids admitted to doing anything that would have brought these, let's just say, spirits or entities out? Have they? I mean, I can't imagine they just stumbled across them in the woods, right?
No, and the interesting thing about this spot out in the woods is there's a depression in the ground that has the same dimensions as what you would put a casket in. Now, this is out in the woods, so I mean, it's not on anybody. It's on somebody's land, but it's not like it would be like an old cemetery plot or something like that. It's just out in the middle of the woods. But you know, I'm not a sensitive. I'm not a psychic or anything like that. I don't get no weird feelings. But there's a lot of weird things in the general area that kind of make you wonder what was going on there. There's giant crosses, seats. There's seats out there. There's an altar. There's no blood on the altar, so don't anybody. But then the weirdest thing is, almost perfect, there are 2 trees with a door to one of the trees, and the door can actually, like, I won't say it locks on the tree, but it shuts perfectly. Just out in the middle of the woods. I'll have to show you guys pictures. I don't have my laptop on. It's just the weirdest. Right. You know, if I was out there by myself, I'd probably have a very uneasy feeling about it. But you know, it's just something you don't really think you're going to come across out in the woods.
Yeah, I'm not even really sure how to follow up with a question on that because I have no idea what it would even be. Ray, do you have anything? I mean, I'm kind of processing that right now. That's such a different, unusual situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I've heard of, and I haven't personally witnessed those types of experiences, but I've heard people talk about those experiences. Salem, Massachusetts is an example that I've talked about in the past, one of my favorite places to go, and where the old gallows were, with the hanging gallows. Apparently there are kids or people who will go there and do very, negative ritualistic type of, I don't know, whole different events, if you want to call it that. And I think it does, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, kind of creates something that maybe wasn't there or invites something maybe that wasn't there. And the Slender Man you mentioned, excuse me, Corey had mentioned, I think that's a great example of something that maybe didn't quite exist in the form that we as a society know it today, but it's been given that power to exist, even if only in the kids or people's mind who believe in it. And I've talked to a number of people before about how we, again, as a society, are so quick to label somebody with some type of mental health disorder and, give a name and medicate somebody, and it could be as serious as they need to be institutionalized and, removed from the public. Of course, that's an extreme case, but I do believe that there are, in that group of people, there have to be, I believe, those that aren't necessarily, schizophrenic or, whatever, some other maybe more serious mental health issues people may be dealing with. I believe there have to be people who are under the influence of some type of negative, I don't like using the word demonic force, but negative force, some type of negative influence. And I think it can be created by those people. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we've come across that even within, to an extent, with our own group, with some individuals that used to work with us. So we've had almost personal experience in that. We do have a call, a question, and I believe it is from Ken, our other group member who's calling in. So we'll go ahead and take that.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey,
yeah, how you doing? Good. How you guys doing? Hey Corey, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, this topic is great. I remember in the past reading a lot about back to the spirit children. It's very popular in the upper New England area, Connecticut, Maine, and all these other areas. And I was just online as you guys were talking, and just to hear the different stories that come out of, like I said, Connecticut and all these other areas with people who have been in all these various woods areas, camping or whatever, and they've heard and have had various interactions with these children's spirits, voices, actual visual appearances. Is very interesting. This topic is great tonight.
And Corey, to kind of go off of what Ken said, what is the big, I guess the big story? We talked about what the big place is to investigate, but in New England in general, or maybe just in your area in Maine, is there more of a, rural hauntings, or is it, urban hauntings? Is there any kind of specific genre, I guess, that people look into?
I would say it's more rural, because a lot of the stuff that we see up here are people that buy like these older homes, and they start renovating it, and that's when they start to get the activity. So,
do you have any? Ken had mentioned about, and we were talking about the incident that you're dealing with now with the kids in the woods. Is that a common? I'm not obviously not their specific situation, but outdoor woodsy kind of hauntings type things, are those common as well as like the rural buildings and farmhouses?
Oh, I'm sorry, I totally misread that one. Yeah, not really. We've only had one other case where we dealt with something that was actually outdoors, and we actually talked to Lauren Coleman about it, because he's based up here in Maine, and he's got some phenomenal insight on some of the going on around here and stuff, because we had a case come in. We thought it was a Mothman case, just the way it sounded, but it was weird because it sounded more alien at the end of it, and we talked to Lauren about it, and then we talked to some other teams, and they said that there's been a lot of UFO sightings in that area, and then the whole, I don't know much about it, the triangle theory, how everything's like broken down into triangles, like the Bridgewater Triangle.
Right.
But it's part of this kind of triangle up here in Maine that I had never heard about, and it blew my mind. I was like, holy cow, because I just do the ghost. I just deal with the ghost stuff. I'm not really into the, but paranormal is everything not normal. So we kind of have to try to figure something out. But
that's
definitely.
Oh, hey, I was going to say, Corey, it's interesting you bring up the triangles, because I was just watching a show recently about the various triangles that people are sort of discovering or starting to notice throughout, the world and also the U.S., that they are starting to see these triangulations where there's all kinds of crazy activity between crypto, paranormal, and UFO activity, and it's kind of interesting. I'm starting to look more into that. It's pretty neat.
Oh, it really is. I mean, the big one is the Bridgewater Triangle, because you just have everything up in that area that's just it's just a hot spot. So. Yeah,
it's pretty crazy and it's just weird that there's all kinds of stuff. That's the thing. It's just not one. It's just not one thing. It's like all different types of like we're saying, between crypto, ufology, paranormal. It's just a lot of weird stuff going on.
Yeah, and it's not only that. People just act. I mean, there's things that happen there that are human, like, you ever heard of the Freetown?
Yeah.
Freetown?
No.
I have, yeah.
That will blow your mind if you ever really, really look into it. We started looking into it, and then I had some friends that actually, just straight out tell me, don't, just let it be. Just let it be. Don't even ask questions about it. And as soon as they told me that, because they've been in a lot longer than I have doing this stuff, and I respect their opinion, and I just dropped it. For something to scare the people that were talking to me about it,
right.
Screwed up. And, that was the big one, but that's right dad middle in the Bridgewater Triangle.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah, it's almost like all these different vortex areas that everything just gathers, and and like you said, even how it affects humans. How it affects their psyche.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. That's I've got about 1,000 questions right now running through my head because we're thinking about all these different things associated with it. To connect it back to the topic of the show tonight, in talking about the geographic areas as triangles, I even tried to, in my research, pinpoint where these black-eyed kid sightings have happened, and I thought I was going to get a handle on it because they seem to be mostly between the Northwest and the Midwest, but then I came across every place. So it was virtually impossible. I was hoping to maybe lock it down to a certain geographic area, but it seems to be occurring everywhere and continuing to occur. So, but it would be interesting if we ever could pinpoint that to see if it falls within that somewhat of a triangle of a geographic area like that. Ken, did you have anything else you want to ask Corey or mention?
No, I just wanted to call in with a couple little points, and no, you guys sound great tonight, and this topic is awesome. I'm researching more as you guys are talking about it because it's very intriguing. So I'm going to continue to research it.
Awesome. So thanks for calling in.
Ken, I'm curious.
Yes.
Before you go, since we have you on the line, what the three of us have mentioned, based on what we know right now, what our thoughts are, as far as maybe more of empirical or spiritual or alien. So I'm curious to know what you're thinking at this point about the black-eyed kids.
I don't know. I'm thinking kind of between paranormal and I don't know. It's strange, especially like Corey said earlier with the almond-shaped eyes. It almost sounds something alien-like. It's very very strange.
And I did come across, and Ray, I don't know if you found this as well, Ray, in your research, but I did. Some people wanted to make the connection between the men in black and these kids, and I did find a story about the same old two kids show up. They actually get invited in. After they get invited in, the couple that invited them in, the power goes out, and the kids said, "We're just waiting for our parents." And when the power went out, they said their parents had showed up, and they walked outside, and there's two guys dressed in black standing outside a black Cadillac. They let these kids in, and they drive away. And for years afterwards, this couple has all kinds of, they have pets that die on a frequent basis. They both come down with diseases related to cancer. So, there is that connection that I did read about.
I read that. Nosebleeds, I recall. Constant nosebleeds,
Is it true?
It's a very interesting topic.
Most definitely. All right, thanks, Ken. We'll be talking to you soon.
All right.
Appreciate you calling in.
Yep.
All right, have a good night.
Talk to you guys later.
All right, later.
Bye. All right, Corey, so we got to ask you, I guess, as our time starts to wind down here, our questions we like to ask all the groups. What would be your dream location to investigate?
Dream location, probably Provalia Island.
No, where is that?
It's a small island off the coast of Italy.
Oh, okay. I have heard about this. I have heard about this one. What makes you want to go there?
I mean, not just because it was a good episode of Ghost Adventures, I ain't going to lie. But
yeah, it was. No, I'll agree with you. As much as it pains me to say that.
But honestly, I mean, just reading the history about it, and to have an island have basically the whole, I don't even know how many layers of topsoil is just human ash.
Right.
You know, that the plants are growing out of it now. I mean, just to think how much energy is trapped on that island. And I mean, they didn't go in a good way, unfortunately, you know, with the black, you know, and it's just, would it be bad? It probably is bad. And, you know, just the stories that you hear about it and what you see on TV and stuff like that, nobody wants to have anything to do with that island. And then it was up for sale. It was up for sale for like 2 years ago.
I did see that, yes. Looks like we have another question, so we'll click over to that one real quick and see. Hello?
Hey, guys, it's April from Freaks and Geeks.
Hey, April, how you doing?
April, welcome.
Hey.
Doing really good, other than the fact that I'm not going to be able to sleep at all tonight because we've been talking about black-eyed children.
Just don't answer the door if you hear a knock.
That is the gift that keeps on giving.
Somebody had to bring up the topic.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's really a fascinating one, you know, the black-eyed children. I think I'm kind of, I think it was Kevin that was saying that, you know, you thought maybe it was a hoax or something like that, or that somebody had just kind of made it up a long time ago. And I kind of agree with that. Like, it could be paranormal, or it could just be something that somebody in the dark web at some point just thought was like, oh, yeah, kids are already a little creepy to begin with sometimes. Let's just add black eyes onto it and see how this goes. So
the more I did the research, I mean, literally I would read one thing and I would say, oh, there's no way this is true. And then I read the very next thing and I would say, oh my God, this is totally true. And it was like that everything I read. I mean, I'm really on the fence with this. I want to say it's a hoax, but there are some details about it that just make me think otherwise. I don't know. You know, from what we know of paranormal things and possible alien things. But it's a tough one.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's kind of like Santa Claus in a way, but I mean, obviously on the other end of the spectrum, you know, you kind of want to believe that there is that other existence of something that's just completely incredible. You know, whether it be alien, black-eyed children, or Mothman, or, you know, Slender Man, whatever you want to believe. Like, I think that as humans we need that. We need something that just seems too incredulous to actually believe. But in the tip of our stomach, we're just kind of like, you know, maybe. I don't know.
And I do also, I agree with Ray's theory on this, is that, you know, quite possibly maybe this was real for one of these instances, and it just, people kind of built on that. So maybe 99 of the 100 reports are false, but one of them is true. You know, as we know in the paranormal, that's usually the case more often than not. It's very easy to build off of someone else's story. So who knows? Maybe the first incident was real, and it's never happened again to anybody, but people want to say that it has. They've given that credence to it. So,
you know, I just had a really bad thought. You know, I have a 5-year-old, and you guys are up in New England, right?
Yes.
Corey's up in New England. We're in New York. We're next door.
Yeah, that's not that far. I could, hop in the car with my 5-year-old and some black sclera contact lenses, and we could, we could start a whole new trend.
There you go.
Just for the record, I'm not answering the door for anyone in the middle of the night, so.
There's just some kids standing on your doorstep. You're like, nope, this is not. No.
You can ring the bell till 6 in the morning.
That alone, kids standing at my door at any time at night that are not my kids, I'm not going near that door. Sorry.
No Girl Scout today. Yeah, well, very cool. Well, I just wanted to say hi and welcome to the network. And I've been, me and Terry both been listening to the show. It's been fantastic so far. Your guest tonight, Corey, he's been awesome as well. Really interesting show tonight, guys. And I can't wait to talk to Ray for a little bit after this. We're going to do extrasensory abilities at 101 for the Freaks and Geeks show tonight. So Ray is going to help us out on that show, as well as the network's own Holly. So I can't wait for that. So looking forward to talking with you more.
Yeah, I look forward to it as well.
All right.
Throw it over to you guys in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, sounds good. I am on the line waiting for you.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
April. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, good to talk to you too. Bye.
Bye. All right, Corey, you still there?
So, when we are and when we're investigating as paranormal investigators, we very often ask for spirits to communicate with us. So I in talking about the black-eyed kids, I believe in it enough to know that that's not something I would want to invite to experience. So I think in thinking about that, I can't say I'm a complete believer, but I can say that I believe enough that I don't want to be inviting them forward to share that experience with anybody.
Yeah, most definitely. Go ahead, Corey.
No, I was just agreeing with him. There's no way.
Yeah.
And I know I've said it maybe twice already in the show, but one of the things that really captivates me about it, there were two things really, is that there's no evidence either way that this is true or this is a hoax, which puts it in that really nebulous realm. And also the fact that no matter what report you read, nobody says, well, I stood up to them and I scared them away. That doesn't come across in any of the reports. Every report you read, people are terrified, which, just as human nature, you're going to get some guy that's going to stand up and say, oh, I showed them what's what, and I scared them off. But that doesn't come up anywhere that I found. And for the majority, or the unanimous, I guess you could say, a group of people to say we're terrified of this subject, then to me that says there may be something to it, quite possibly. Corey, we got to wrap up in just a couple minutes here, but I want to give you a chance to kind of plug your group. We always do that for everybody. If you want to tell people where they can check out all your information, if you have a Facebook page, web page, how they can get in contact with you if they need to, go ahead and put that information out there for them.
Well, we're on the web. It's just maineparanormal.net, or on our Facebook page, it's Maine Paranormal Society. If you just want to swing by, just say hi, whatever, or ask any questions. We're really good about getting back to people on stuff. Any teams out there that want to get together, like what we're doing this week, going down to Tennessee, we're going down there with Horry County Paranormal out of South Carolina, and then Josh is just playing wingman coming down from West Virginia. So, but we love
people
doing
need to get
stuff.
If people need to get a hold of you for a case, how should they do that?
The easiest way is actually going through our website, maineparanormal.net, and just hitting contact us, and it goes right to our case manager. So.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you calling in and being on tonight. We look forward to talking to you and hopefully working with you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much for having me.
Yeah,
not a problem.
Corey.
Have a great night, Corey.
You too.
Goodbye. All right, Ray. So we are about at the end. I know you're going to be sticking around to talk a little bit on Freaks and Geeks with April and Carrick's about medium and psychic abilities. And next week, we don't have anybody scheduled yet, but keep an eye on the webpage, on the Facebook page, and we'll announce that soon, who's going to be on. And if you do need to get a hold of us, you can reach us at syrpara@gmail.com, or obviously through the Shadow Travels Facebook page or through the Syracuse Area Paranormal page. So with that, I guess we'll sign off for another week. And Ray, thanks for being on.
As always, thank you. It was a great topic, and I'm still not sure what I believe, but we will, to be continued, I guess.
Absolutely, anytime. All right, everybody, have a good night, and we look forward to talking with you next week. Stay tuned for the Freaks and Geeks show.
The Exchange Hotel's third annual paranormal conference, held at the Civil War Medical Museum in Gordonsville, Virginia, June 17th and 18th. Public investigations from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. on both nights. Starting 10 a.m. Saturday morning, enjoy special guest speakers such as Chris Balazone, Tim Hoover, and Scott Spangler, Pat Bizarre O'Keefe, the Connor Sisters, Rodney Shortridge, and more. Special guest appearances by Walking Dead's Santiago Cerello and Jeremy Ambler. Special guest readers, intuitive mediums Meredith McDonough, Nancy Waltz, and psychic medium Pat Bizarre O'Keefe. General admission tickets include self-guided tour of museum and the grounds, unlimited access to exhibits, lectures, raffles, and hourly giveaways. Psychic readings and night investigation tickets may be purchased separately. General admission is $10. Children 8 to 12 years old is $3. Children 7 and younger are free. Get your ticket at nightattheexchangehotel.com.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Freaks and Geeks. This is Carrie. We are waiting on April to get back in. She's having some technical difficulties. Tonight our show is going to be on extrasensory abilities, or as I titled it, medium psychics and sensitive oh my. April, are you with us?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I unmuted you.
Oh, fantastic. Look, that's the problem, is that I'm muted. I have so many different Blog Talk Radio, studios open right now. It's crazy. I don't even know why, but I do. I have seriously 4 of them. So we're just going to have to play this one a little bit crazy, fast and loose, if you will. So did you talk about the guest night?
I just sort of gave the topic.
Okay. Well, everybody, welcome to episode 9 of Freaks and Geeks, where we are talking about, as Carrie told you, extrasensory abilities. And we're just going to give a very, very baseline understanding of exactly what sensitivity is, psychic sensitivity. And we're going to go through just kind of a handful of the different declinations of actual sensitive. And then from there, we're going to have a talk live here with 2 sensitives that we actually have on the network right now. We have Holly Mullins, and then we also have Ray, who is one of the hosts on Shadow Travels, which just finished up a few minutes ago, so I hope you're able to catch that. It was a rather rousing conversation on black-eyed kids, which I'm still looking to put my 5-year-old into my car and slap some sclera contact lenses on them and maybe start, I don't know, terrorizing some of the people in the neighborhood or something. Who knows? Maybe that's a great Halloween costume. Get like an old that's terrifying. Have you seen that thing on like Pinterest or whatever? It's
with
this woman,
shadow kids.
Yes. Oh my God! If that showed up at my door, I don't think I would open the door. Like, I'm not sure what I would do, honestly. Like, if I'm opening the door, I'm gonna open the door with the 44 in my hand. Like, I don't know what I would think that would do to a child, but like, I don't know what to do with that. That was crazy.
A whole lot of nope.
A whole lot of nope going on in that whole situation. Yep. So I'm really excited for this topic tonight. But first, as always, Carrie, how was your week?
It was pretty good. Got a lot done. I got a new refrigerator. Kaylee got a new bed. I did some cleaning. Unfortunately, also lost the water pump on my car. Well, didn't lose it, but, it blew up.
Oh, God.
So, ups and downs.
That is crazy cakes. Wow. Just wow. That's a lot. That's a lot right there. I ended up, so because my ex-husband is here, for the last 2 weeks. Tonight is his actual last night here. So he leaves at like 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. We were able to get through a lot of the house and basically separate out belongings and kind of like go through the attic and stuff like that. And if you know my ex-husband and I at all, for the people who are listening, we are easily, it's kind of like more like brother and sister, which is really weird to say, but we've both been through so very much together. Both of us were in the military at the same time, and Don went off and did a lot of deployments, and we have a lot of really, really hard time underneath our belt. And I hate to make it sound like a prison sentence, but it kind of was, and we both agree on that. But we're much better off as friends. And we are lucky enough to share a beautiful daughter between us, and we have a fantastic relationship. And it was really great because we would just like throw things at each other. Like I would find, like I found 2 cans of dip from like easily 2009, circa 2009. It expired in 2010, so I can only guess that it was 2009. We're like throwing them at each other. Like is this, whose is this? Like, is this yours? You know, is this yours? It was. Oh, military love. It is a beautiful, delicate thing. Anyway, so we were able to get through a lot of stuff. So I had Salvation Army coming to pick up all this crap that I have to just give away. Yeah, and like furniture and everything. Well, you know what? I like 2-3 weeks ago, I made this appointment with them to come meet up. Like Thursday or Friday, they called me and they were like, hey, we just want to confirm that everything's good to go. And I'm like, hey, I told you that I would have like 10 bags of crap. I actually have 28 bags of crap. Like, it's a lot of stuff. They didn't even show up. They didn't even show up today.
Oh.
So all this crap is sitting in the middle of my driveway right now. And I'm like, well, I don't know, 50-50 shot. Will it rain? I don't know. So I guess we're going to see what happens, but I don't know. I'm going to angrily call them in the morning and say, listen, you confirmed. Come pick up this crap. It's in my driveway. Ugh, so much crap. But I'm so happy to get it out of my house. Just get it out. I also think I pulled a muscle in one of my thighs doing some heavy lifting there. But anyway. Enough about me and my thighs. I know. Let's talk about extrasensory abilities. So, Carrie, I don't know how much research you did, but I pulled up everything I possibly could think of, and I found this amazing resource. It's a full list of different psychic abilities, and there's a ton of them. I'd like to read them, but I don't know. What do you think? It's a lot. It's probably...
and, you know, as always, I took like 8 pages of notes.
Oh, my gosh. There's like maybe a little over a page worth of stuff. Do you want me to go through those real quick?
Yeah, I think we can just go through them, give a brief description. And
well, it's got all this stuff right here. So, and it's oh, no, just kidding. I was going to say it's alphabetically organized, but I would be lying to you. Okay.
Well,
Clairvoyant.
You start with one, and then I'll hit the next one, and we'll just keep going until we get through them all.
There's a lot. Okay. Clairvoyant, the person who can clearly see non-physical realities or dimensions, surrounding energies, auras, physical people's psychospheres, whatever that is, and also non-physical consciousness.
I sort of wondered if like astral travel would kind of be included in that, but maybe we can ask Holly when she's on later. Yep.
I think that actually is on here as well, though. So I think they define this in 2 different ways. And this is the list that I got this from is actually the International Academy of Consciousness.
Okay.
Are you sure you don't want me to just go? Because it's like a whole list. I'm doing it.
Next one. Go for it.
Oh, I'm steamrolling right over this. Clairaudience. So we have clairvoyant, now we have clairaudience. The person who can hear events occurring at long distance in the physical world and events occurring in non-physical dimensions. Okay.
Okay.
So they can just, so they're like Mothman, or maybe not Mothman, but something like a bat, I guess.
So I think that anyone can experience these things, but also, some people experience them more. So, like, if clairaudience, if you are somewhere and you hear music playing, would that fall under that, or is it like specifically that you would hear the music in your head and no one else would hear it?
Oh God, I have no idea.
So
I mean,
twice, like 8 years apart, I've heard a man call my name, but I mean nobody else heard it, so I don't know if that would fall under that category, or, if you're investigating somewhere and you and another person both hear the same music, is that a different experience? Like I said, I think anybody can experience these things here and there, but then maybe
I think I might
more often.
I might need to put a caveat on all this. So especially for the listeners. So here's number one, right? So I have to say this, and this might be offensive. I'm sorry if it offends you. By all means, please educate me. Please do it. You're welcome to come to the Freaks and Geeks page. You're welcome to come to my personal page, whatever it is. I don't even care. Please do it, because I really do want to know, especially if I'm stepping over something that maybe I shouldn't step over. But I like to think that I have a fairly open mind. I really do. But some of this stuff, it just seems like a lot of it could be explained with, like, clairaudience. So you hear things that aren't there. And like you said, is it just that you can hear it and other people can't hear it? Is this a consistent thing? Does this happen all the time? Like, how does that work? Is that really a real thing, or are you just crazy? Because it could just be crazy. That could just be a thing.
Holly and I are both in chat over at vibrationnetwork.org if anybody wants to join us. And she said that it is hearing music or voices and so forth.
But wouldn't that be all of us? Because I haven't, as paranormal investigators, if you're in the field long enough, and sometimes it's your first time, whatever. I mean, if you're just super lucky, you're going to hear a disembodied voice. You're going to hear disembodied music. You're going to hear something that doesn't necessarily match your surroundings. So is that still clairaudient? Then could you say, oh yeah, I'm a sensitive, I'm clairaudient? Like, I've heard things that aren't there before, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, well, I could be crazy. Like I'm hearing someone calling my name. Oh, well, I'm crazy. So it's easy enough for me to shrug it off, even when it happens to myself. So I don't know.
I think that anyone can experience it, and if you experience it, then you have some level of sensitivity. I mean, my thoughts. Anyone can have these abilities. I think that they're innate. It's just the level at which you experience them or allow yourself to experience them.
So then the next question I would have to that end is that how can you categorize yourself, So if you're giving me a resume of your psychic abilities, of your extrasensory abilities, then do you list clairaudient on there? Do you list clairaudient, remote viewer, lucid projector? Like, at some point, is it just all within the same bucket, and we're just coming up with names for things that just really mean the same thing?
I think that's where maybe the overall part of it, of using the term sensitive, is because you're sensitive to the other world, or whatever you want to call it, and so that you experience some or one or all of these things.
Do you think, so this was something that I found really interesting in my research. I know we're kind of going on a little side jaunt here, but we love our side jaunts here at Freaks and Geeks. So in my research, I saw there's a list of like the top 10 qualities that highly sensitive people hold, and it was talking about sensitive people, like people that get their feelings hurt very often, or like easily.
Who does that sound like?
Who does it? Does it sound like me?
No.
Do I get my feelings hurt?
No. Sounds
you?
Like your very emo friend.
I have lots of very emo friends.
No, me. This very emo friend.
Oh yeah, you are very emo. God, Oh, so many jokes. Oh God. I wish my grass was emo. Never mind. I'm not going to finish that. Anyway, yeah, so I found this list, and it was talking about sensitive people, but at the same time, it was also talking about sensitive people in the context of that this type of sensitivity is an indicator for psychic sensitivity as well. And so these people that are much more highly sensitive, just in general, with their own lives and everything that they're talking about and everything that they're doing, those people could also then have some key indicators for psychic ability. So do you think that sensitive, like getting your feelings hurt, goes hand in hand with sensitive, like being able to, like sense another world?
I think that it can, absolutely.
Interesting. Very interesting to me. So going on down the list that we have here. So we have clairsensitive. Go figure. Now we have another bucket to put things into. The person who can feel the surrounding energies and non-physical consciousnesses. You can also train to feel all it touches or could touch your skin at a distance from it by exteriorizing your sensitivity to the periphery of your energosoma. I'm just going to pretend like I know what that word is. Thus producing the effect or becoming a full body, full energosoma radar. So basically, you can be physically hypersensitive, yes? Is that what I'm
I think that
getting
is
on this
absolutely
one?
true. Think about autistic people.
Or even people that have had just recently, like very, very recently experienced trauma. Like they can be hypersensitive to touch. They can, they'll recoil from you before you even actually touch them. So maybe that's it.
Yep.
Very interesting. Let's see. So we've got that. We've got remote viewer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I think the remote viewer falls under clairvoyance.
Yes. Okay. Hold on. So we get into that. The phenomena of remote viewing can also be technically called of traveling clairvoyance. Therefore, the remote viewer can clearly see consciousnesses, places, and events happening at long distance, either in the physical dimension or in non-physical dimensions. The remote viewer can also describe to an audience, even with the eyes open, what is being seen, what is happening in real time.
Ryan had Dennis on his show last night, Freaking Awesome Paranormal Show, and apparently Dennis is a remote viewer, and so they were talking about an experience that they had helping a lady somewhere in the Midwest. I can't recall the state. So that was pretty interesting. Dennis was able to describe to the woman her house, what things looked like, what was going on. Like, it was really interesting to me.
I'm telling Holly to fertilize me with her seeds, her psychic seeds. That's so dirty. I love it, though. Let's see. So there's also lucid projector, which maybe this is astral? Yes. Okay, astral traveler or skywalker, the person that leaves the physical body or soma, sleeping in the physical dimension, and explores with the psychosoma or other physical or non-physical locations, thus gathering information the soma cannot obtain during the waking state. The lucid projection amplifies one's level of physical and non-physical awareness, not just of oneself, but also of the reality of all consciousnesses. Now, I will say that I do believe in this. Weirdly enough, I do think that when you're in a dreamlike state, that you have the ability to do things that you normally would never do. And maybe that's some of the time why we can't remember things that happen while we're asleep, is because, maybe it is the case that there are people that need to grow a little bit more before their minds can wrap around what they've been doing or whatever. But I think that everybody might have that ability, really. And I think that, what would a dream really be? It's a part of our consciousness. It's a part of our brain that hasn't really turned off. In fact, in some cases, looking at the actual brain waves, in some areas of the brain, it actually spikes. And specifically in areas of the brain that we don't typically see that type of activity during while people are awake. So that's incredibly interesting to me, both from a paranormal standpoint, but also from a science standpoint.
I think that is absolutely amazing, and I was reading about something else today that I want to talk about in a future show, but I'll go ahead and mention it here. And I think that is an ability, of course, that people can have because, I mean, if you think about it, if we continue on, our spirit, our soul, our essence, whatever you want to call it, if that continues on, this is just a temporary human suit. And so I was reading about quantum mechanics, which is the study of the smallest types of matter, and it's led to some pretty interesting things. So there are a couple of physicists, and it's Dr. Stuart Hamroth and Roger Penrose, and they theorize that the human consciousness comes from microtubules inside of our brain cells, and these tubules are responsible for quantum processing, which is basically our souls. And they believe that when people have a near-death experience, it's all that quantum information leaving the brain through these tubules, which could be, the whole light at the end of the tunnel, but it continues to exist. And that's why some people report out-of-body experiences, and then the lights at the end of tunnels. So another doctor, a quantum physicist, Henry Stapp, who worked with Heisenberg, believes that a person's personality might be able to survive death and exist as a mental entity. He theorizes that if these entities could return to the physical world, then things like possession and channeling could be possible. And I was just so excited when I read that.
Yeah, I was just typing in chat. I was like, this is my language. This is what gets me. Like, this is the stuff that I think is really just fucking cool. Like, absolutely. The light at the end of the tunnel, like, that could be why we're seeing it. That's crazy. It makes me wonder if there's some way that we could possibly, like, make that happen. I mean, obviously not when people are dying, but maybe if we could replicate that somehow and then, measure it and see exactly how it happens and
intentionally induce that out-of-body experience.
Yes. Oh, amazing. That's such a cool thought. It's such a cool thought. Thank you, Carrie. Now I will be geeking out all night long, which is great because I'd rather think about that than black-eyed children. Shit, now I'm thinking about that again.
As we go on, I got some more for you.
Oh, I am so excited. Precognitor is my next one. The person that develops the capacity to gather information from a possible future. To be able to access information from the future means only that you can read the possibilities. The future may or may not unfold according to these possibilities because consciousness still has free will and with it the capacity of choice to change the future. I actually think that this is the closest thing that I read to me. And I mean that
this also includes that gut feeling that you have about certain things, which if anybody's ever had a gut feeling, it is you.
Yeah, so I was actually talking to, I've talked to Carrie a lot about this before, and I've talked to Holly, I've talked to the network about this before because I'm kind of in this weird situation where I'm, I guess, figuring out how I fit into this world, or if I even do. And I know for a fact that I have at least one of my former coworkers listening right now. And I also have Chris, who works with me currently, listening right now. And I'm going to say this, and they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I have the ability to know from halfway around the world what someone is about to do, why they're about to do it, and then what's going to happen associated with that. And right, wrong, or indifferent, I sometimes do let that affect how I perform my job. Part of my job involves trying to, let's say, get to know people, bad people that are halfway around the world, like I said, that don't have access to all the things we have here. They don't act the same way that we do here. They're they're very different from us. And if I can, as a white woman, a 32-year-old white woman who has never experienced any of that, can be like, oh yeah, no, he's about to get in a car. He's about to get in a car and leave. We probably need to make sure that we're, doing this and this so that way we can head him off at the pass. And I'm right. That's creepy to me, but it happens all the time. And I feel like my coworker that's listening in right now that worked with me, he's like probably nodding his head right now because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. It was like I knew what things people were going to do before they did them. And sometimes they wouldn't, but you could always tell that there was something, there was a reason why that didn't happen the way it happened. So it's weird because you get to see that 360 view of this person's life or that person's life or whatever. And then to be able to come up with those things and be like, oh yeah, his wife's leaving him. Like his wife is about to leave him right now. And then have that actually happen. That situation actually literally happened. I was like, yeah, his girlfriend's about to dump him. And then it happened. And it was like, oh, okay, well, he's pretty upset and he's going to go a little crazy. And he did. And it was amazing.
I've read before about scientific studies that have been done about precognition. They've narrowed it down to your brain can interpret, know what's going to happen between 7 to 10 seconds before it happens. And that's just the average person. Obviously, some people may know further ahead than that, but just the average person can know what's going to happen 7 to 10 seconds before it happens.
Yep. And that's me. Somehow or another, that's always me. I mean, it's good for work, Business is booming, so to speak.
And I think that is something that's very important for people that have extrasensory abilities, and it absolutely can be overwhelming. But if you can harness it and use it to your benefit and use it to its full promise, it can enhance your life in unbelievable ways.
How do you do that, though? See, I'm asking that in chat. Like Holly's saying, stop fighting it, and somebody else, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe Josh is saying, yeah, just let it happen. And it's like, but how do you do that? How do you just do that? You're talking to somebody that doesn't know how to relax. So how do I do that? I guess it's, don't worry, Holly, or, huh? What are you saying, Carrie?
You have to not deny it when it does happen. Just take it as, oh, okay, well, that happened. I'll just, remember that for later. And I don't think it's not being able to relax, because I'm probably the chillest, anxiety-ridden person ever.
It's just really interesting, how do I guess it's like, in Holly, here you go. We made the episode PG-13, so you're all good here. I guess it's kind of like trying to tell somebody about how to have an orgasm. You can't really teach that. It's not. I guess it's not something you can really be like, well, first step 1, do this. Like step 2, do this. Or I mean, maybe you can't. I don't know. I'm not that skilled. I can't teach you
give directions.
Well, you can give directions, but that doesn't mean it's going to work. Like Holly was like, yeah, you just need to meditate. And I don't meditate, apparently. Meditating is not my forte at all. At all.
It can definitely be hard to shut your brain down, especially when your brain goes 1,000 miles an hour all day, every day.
Holly's saying it's my path. What if my path goes into a brick wall? Like, is that... I think that's my path.
Over it or dig under it?
Oh no, I'm just going smack dab into it. I'm just going to lay against it for the rest of my life.
I'll come throw a rope over it for you.
I'm just gonna lay there and make noises. I don't know. That's what I do normally anyway. So, okay. full list of different stuff. So we've got the precognitor, the retrocognitor, the person that acquires information from past lives or from the intervals between physical lives or the consciousness lived in non-physical dimensions. This modality can bring to the projector information from what was learned and planned during these periods spent in non-physical dimensions, allowing for present increased discernment in the physical dimension. So past the person that does, yeah.
Past lives, or even being able to see past events. I've read things before about people that can, look at a street before them and see almost like the past laid over top of the present.
That's interesting.
So I think that would fall under that too.
Yep. The next one is a telepath, which I think is one of the most interesting ones on the entire list. The person that can read the information being transmitted mind to mind in physical or non-physical dimensions between the consciousnesses. The telepath is a receptor and a transmitter. We all are. In the physical dimension, telepathy occurs when the alpha rhythms of the two communicating consciousness enter synchronicity. Perhaps for this reason, it is easier for two consciousnesses that have more affinity to relate and communicate with each other using telepathy. That's really interesting. So you basically just have to be on the same frequency.
Yeah.
I wonder if
in your brain.
I wonder if you and I could have a telepathic moment.
I think that we have on multiple occasions. I think that our silent conversations would fall under that.
I think we have two. Okay, fine. All right, fine. You got me. So I have.
I mean, how many times have we just looked at each other and had a whole paragraph of conversation?
Oh, dude, and we have it even over the radio too. Like we're not even in the same room, and you can already tell by my tone like exactly what's going on. Oh man, anthropology. That's all I'm saying. See. Okay, psychometrist. The person that can read information contained in the energy of objects. Psychometrist can learn information from the past, the present, or details the personality of the owner of an object and the epoch in which he or she lived by reading the energy that got stuck into this object. Very interesting. Psychometry.
I think that would be amazing. Oh my God.
That would be so cool.
I would touch. Well, I mean, I guess if you are able to turn it off and on at will, touch all kinds of stuff. I would get every backstory on every historical object I've ever encountered.
I would want to go to the Hard Rock Cafe. I would want to touch all the things on the walls.
Oh, see, I'm going to the Poe Museum for my first spot. Yep.
I put the freaky in, and she puts the geeky in. It's just how we work. It's a give and a take, really. It is. So then I have intuitive as its whole other category. So the person that can get an intimate, clear knowledge of things and grab insights that escape the normal thought process. The immediate instinctive represents a shortcut of the mental soma, a jump over reason. It adds to intelligence. So I think Lindsay would be classified as an intuitive. For those who don't know, Lindsay is RTL paranormal sensitive, and I think that she is actually what she calls an intuitive, I think.
Yes, I think I've heard her say that too.
From there we have psychographer, the person that does psychic writing or automatic writing, being at the moment it happens, the instrument of the non-physical consciousnesses that take over the process of reasoning. This means reasoning is eliminated in favor of becoming the medium of the mind for some other non-physical being who dictates. So this would be like maybe ghostwriter or like what's it called? Auto writing?
Yes. Somebody who claimed to have the ability to do that was actually Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's wife. He was a big believer, both of them were, in the spiritualism movement.
Very interesting. Who is the guy that had the face on the back of his head? You know about?
From Harry Potter? What no,
there actually was historically, like, I'm not making a joke, there actually was a guy. He was like a duke, I think.
What you're talking about.
Yeah, he had a face. He had like it was like his twin. Yeah, but it supposedly would like whisper to him, but I think he also was an auto writer, and I think that there's a lot of stuff published about him and his auto writing.
Edward Mordake.
Yes. Sounds right. Yep.
He was an heir to an English peerage. He had an extra face on the back of his head. It was said that his demon twin was a female, but that's impossible because a new parasitic twin is going to be an identical twin, so they would be the same sex. There's actually like a picture of, I guess like a wax figurine of him, and I'll post this all on our Facebook page.
Oh God, do I want to see it, or is it not?
I mean, it's a wax figure. It kind of looks like your average British dude with Abraham Lincoln's face on the back of his head.
Oh God, maybe I don't want to see that. Okay. So I have medium, which we are so lucky to have on the show with us tonight in the form of Ray. A medium is a person that meditates or mediates and brings information from the non-physical dimension to the physical dimension. We are all mediums, much more than we can think of. We keep bringing information transmitted to us through telepathy by non-physical consciousness around us only too often. And when you don't know it, you think these thoughts you're thinking or these feelings you are having are actually just yours. That's interesting. Wow.
So would that be like empathic abilities?
I don't know. Maybe.
So to me, empathic abilities is being able to feel the emotions of those around you, and not just maybe not just emotions, but also physical feelings, like if someone's stomach hurts, your stomach will hurt. And maybe not just of people that, you know, still have physical bodies, but maybe also spiritually you can feel their feelings too. I think that's what I have. I'm pretty certain that's what I have.
Mediumship?
No, the empathic abilities.
Oh, well, I mean, if we're saying that empaths and mediums are kind of in the same vein, then that's, yeah.
Maybe like a subcategory.
Yeah. I think empath is like I think I would say that empath is probably the largest category because I think it might be like one of the easiest things to be. I mean, you just really have to kind of be tuned in to, I don't even think spirit necessarily, but I mean, you can be incredibly hypersensitive to like people as well, like empathic toward people. I think I've got definitely a little bit of that going on, but like, I think when it gets to the medium stage, it's like a evolution, but maybe we can talk to Ray about that. Maybe Ray can help us answer that question.
Yeah, a lot of studies have been done on empathic abilities. It's also rolled up with social cognition. So that's something that's been studied a lot, is the ability to pick up what other people are feeling.
Yeah. Do you just want to go ahead and bring the guests on, and then we can actually kind of start talking about the rest of the stuff because we're running a little bit.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring them on.
Damn, Holly. Holly wants to talk. We got to bring her on. Holly's about to burn her damn chat up. I love it. I love it. Let's see. All right, I'm going to bring Ray in. Ray, are you here with us?
I'm here. How are you?
Hey, great. How are you? Have you been
good.
listening to our discussion on mediumship and everything empathic ability?
I have been, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, Holly, are you on with us?
I'm here, baby. I'm here.
Hey, yeah, no, hell yeah, I know you are. I've been watching you in chat. Damn, I'm gonna have like a research paper due after this. I got a research paper due for the freaking network after this one. I'm gonna have a lot of things to read. This is awesome. This is awesome.
I get excited.
So you're saying spiritual mediumship is messages brought to you through clairaudience, clairvoyance, and precognition. They usually use divination tools. What do you mean divination tools? What do you mean by that?
Divination tools is stuff like some people use the Ouija board. Of course, you know, it's a big controversy right now. There's scrying with mirrors. There's You have, have you ever heard of some of the mediums that actually use, or back in the days, they used tea leaves or the crystal balls or stuff like that?
Yeah.
There's actually different types of mediumship, and you have your physical mediumship, which is where the mediums actually do more. You hear the noises, you hear the table tipping and noise making levitation, stuff like that. You have the healing mediumship, which is in my category, which you heal, and you can, and that's usually with like Reiki people, shamans. The hands-on healing, which is what I do, and then you have channeling.
So channeling would be like bringing specific spirits, or maybe even not specific spirits, but that would be like bringing them forward and then allowing them to speak through you.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you think that if you have, because you have the healing mediumship, do you think that it would be easier for you to like jump to one of the other kind of specialties within mediumship? Do you think it would be easier for you to do that, or do you think that it's just kind of like, well, this is what you got, this is kind of what your soul recognizes, and this is just how you communicate?
It's funny that you mentioned that, April, is because I never in a million years thought, you will never hear me say at this point in my past that I'm a medium, because I don't know, I just don't feel like I've earned that title, so I just tell everybody I'm a healer. So I'm comfortable with that. But this is the thing, is like I didn't have these experiences as a child. All this started happening about, 10, 12 years ago is when my experiences started, going on. But, tuning into my abilities, I went through a process, and it's always been different things, but ultimately I started out with astral projection. And then it moved on to clairaudience, and I also started hearing spirits. I started feeling spirits. I started communicating with spirits, and now I'm healing. See what I'm saying? It's almost like you're continuously learning no matter what. And I don't feel like that you are stuck to a certain title, but I do believe that specific people are better at certain things. Like I'm a healer. That's who I am. That's what I do. But, I can hear. I can speak. I can... if I wanted to, I could use the divination tool. So there's no stop to what people can do. People can do whatever they want.
So there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. Is that what you're saying? Basically, a spiritual Reese's.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm down. So I don't understand Reiki at all. Does anybody understand Reiki? Like, I know that I went and got a massage from a lady once that said that she did Reiki, and it was a good massage. I don't know. I didn't feel particularly enlightened afterward or anything like that. I just felt, relaxed.
Yeah. Well, I've had Reiki sessions done. I don't know about you, Ray.
I have actually just had 2 more recently. I was interested in it. I guess I would explain it, at least my experience, as more of a massage without the physical touching, going around the body and identifying the places on our bodies that kind of need the healing and focusing on those. And there would be some touch, but really I don't know, channeling energy. I'm not as familiar with the Reiki, so Holly, you might be able to explain that better than I.
Yeah, Reiki is actually a Japanese term. And a lot of people's like, well, Holly, with your healing, and I went through everything and studied everything because I'm like, what is my path? Where do I go from here? And that's where I think everybody struggles with that at some point. But as long as you this is what I keep saying, and I keep saying, let go, just accept it, let spirit guide you, and that's so true because, once you let go and accept everything, they kind of guide you. But Reiki, let me tell you, and I don't know, every Reiki master is different. The one that I went to, she actually cleared my chakras, cleared me of any kind of attachments, and I always go in with like she always tells me they're like going out the door, and it's hilarious. But they actually, for her, she actually uses the pendulum to test my chakras, and what they're doing is they're channeling energy and they're clearing your chakras, and they are disconnecting any attachments of any parasites, which we can pick up anywhere. So channeling, and it's a healing session, really.
That's really interesting. No, mine was a legit. She was giving me a legit massage, but at the same time, she was telling me that she was clearing my chakras and stuff like that. And I was like, awesome, cool, I love it. Do it, go do it. I don't know. I was just kind of like, hey, whatever. I'd never had it done before, so I was absolutely open to trying it. And you know, you never know. You never know what might work and what might not. So.
No, absolutely.
So Ray, how would exactly? Ray, how would you describe your abilities? Like, how did it happen? How did this like, where did you get these from? How does it work?
I think Holly said it best. I don't, myself, I also don't give it any one name. And I don't use the term psychic. I actually don't really like the term psychic for myself anyways. Just as Holly said, I feel like that's not a term, that's something that I haven't earned. I'm still learning. I'm still interpreting. I was a kid when I first, a young child when I first had some experiences with the paranormal, and I was 15 when I finally had my out there experience. I found out my uncle was killed tragically in an accident. I don't remember being told. I just knew. And then I communicated with him right after that, and then I communicated with my mother, who was living. We were in the same vehicle together. And ever since then, they're like, hey, there's something to this here. And then I found out, it's the women in my family anyways, had their different abilities. So over the years, it's something that I went through a long period of struggling with, diagnosed with depression, with anxiety. And I was getting a psychic reading. I would go to different psychics. I was getting a psychic reading from a very well-respected person locally, and they said, you are very sensitive, is the term they used. They said, you could be doing what we're doing. You are open, you have direct connections. So they gave me some ideas as far as what I should be looking into and how to protect myself. And I have to say that, like, they were truly lifesavers, because the regular anxiety attacks, at least that's what I thought I was having, was really just my energies mixing with other people's, other things' energies. So they taught me how to protect myself, how to close myself off. So for me, I don't meditate to connect. I have to pull myself back and meditate to really close myself off and to protect more than connect, I guess, would be the best way to describe it. As far as my abilities, I consider myself or call myself a medium, intuitive, sensitive, empath, all the clairs. I think I'm more clairsentient than anything else. And I'm still learning constantly.
Yeah, it seems like that kind of thing that you just is a lifelong pursuit, really. Absolutely. I've read a number of books, and I think talking to other people who have similar abilities has worked wonders, because I went through a period of time where I think, hey, I'm crazy. I'm communicating with people who aren't here. I'm seeing people who aren't here, or I'm feeling, the emotions of a variety of things. I can look at somebody and I can tell what they're feeling, or, physically or emotionally. Living or non-living. When I do readings for people, a lot of times when I'm getting the messages, I have to ask them, because I can't always tell if the person is living or not. And, it's more because that's the energy of the person is associated with whoever I'm reading. It doesn't necessarily have to be a person that has passed. I've picked up on a number of people who are having physical ailments, and again, that's me, kind of a learning curve for me, because I got to figure out, okay, is this my body hurting right now, or is this me picking up on somebody else? So that's where it's been very important for me to, again, protect myself and kind of know and allow myself to be open to accepting other energies, other messages, and then making it a priority to close myself off from that. That's really interesting. That's incredibly interesting. Do you guys have any, just kind of throwing this out there, do you, Holly, or do you, Ray, have any like materials or anything that you guys could forward over to us over at Freaks and Geeks, either on the Facebook page or via email or something like that? Because I know that there are a couple people listening who have contacted me, strangely enough, right the week before this episode, have contacted me and said, hey, I have been feeling this kind of way, and I have a lot of questions about this kind of thing, and it basically led me to believe that maybe they think they might be a little on the sensitive side, and they're very a little freaked out, and they don't quite know what to think, and they're not alone with me. I mean, because I'm in the same boat with them. So, do you guys have any resources or anything like that to put out for the people that are listening?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a ton of books. Like I said, I really, I was an ELA teacher, so I love books. I have my library of books here at my house. I have a lot of resources that I can share. I'll have to go through them all. But, you know, everything out there, not everything out there is great. One of my favorite books that I would recommend for anybody who thinks they may be psychic, written by a friend of mine, Chip Coffey, who you may know from a couple of television shows, Paranormal Society.
I have the biggest crush on him.
Chip is a wonderful guy. A friend of mine, he wrote a book called Growing Up Psychic. And actually that was not one of the first books. I'd read many before I discovered his book. But that's been one of the best books for me to say, hey, you know what? This is somebody else who's gone through similar things, because he starts with when he was a child. And, you know, it's not something people talk, or I should say used to talk about. I think it's become a little bit more common these days in some circles, at least in my circle. You know, maybe not so much other areas, but, you know, Sylvia Brown, I'm trying to think of some people who may be a little more well-known. She's had some good books put out there. But I think you really have to be careful of the authors and, you know, take a look at their backgrounds. And yeah, I'll go through my library of books and see what I can find and send over to you.
Yeah, please do, because I think there's a lot of people out there that could be kind of suffering and just really are looking for a path and a way ahead and just looking for more information. I think that, you know, what you said is absolutely right. You have to kind of consider the source. And, you know, if you're not educated in this stuff, you may not be educated enough to know whether this is a good source or a bad source. And unfortunately, that can lead to probably a lot of lost time and a lot of trauma that doesn't necessarily need to be there.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to consider, too, you know, earlier on our show we were talking about mental health. I think that's so important to consider. You know, like I said, I was diagnosed with, when I was younger, with the anxiety and with the depression. And, you know, that wasn't the case. There are people who are just going to be more, and I heard you mention it earlier on the show, the difference between asensitive and being sensitive. You know, I'm a sensitive person in the, you know, medium realm talk, but, you know, as far as being a sensitive, crying at everything, and, you know, that's not me at all. So I think, you know, you really have to consider, you know, how you're feeling, you know, what's making you feel certain ways, and kind of rule out other possibilities as well, because there are people who are, you know, just sensitive or, you know, depressed or feeling bad or whatever terms you want to use. I found in our investigations there are a number of people who like to, they crave to be a medium. You know, they want to have the experiences, and I think that can also be dangerous because they're reading the books, like how to communicate, and maybe using some of the tools when they don't really understand the proper use, or maybe even what the ramifications could be of you know, taking different approaches.
Very interesting. Do you think that they Do you think that anybody can have, sort of a psychic ability? Do you think that anybody can kind of harness those senses? Like you just said, it can, in a lot of cases, there can be people out there that are trying to invoke this and that are trying to do it and maybe not do it in the best ways, the most healthy ways possible. But do you think that everyone could do that, actually? Do you think that everybody could harness that?
Holly, I don't know if you feel different. I think that people can, and I think that they have to be willing to have an open mind. They have to be ready. And it's not just something you can say, okay, I want to communicate with spirits, or, you can really want that, but you really have to, I guess, be open to it. I've met a number of people, even people in my family, who I recognize as being sensitive, having different abilities, but they don't want to realize it. They don't want to acknowledge it. My sister, for example, could communicate. I tell her, but she becomes too afraid. She's gone on an investigation with me recently, and she had experiences there, but she was just too afraid to really allow herself to have the full experience and to communicate.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I agree too. And you were talking about people who are actually trying to possess these abilities for negativity. I personally think that these people that are attempting to do that, I feel sorry for them, because Spirit always guides you where you need to be. And I've, right now in my past, looking back, I'm like, you know what? I met these people that I needed to meet at the right time. You need guidance. Ask it from the highest power above and say, you know what, I need guidance, and I guarantee you it will come. When it comes to people with psychic, with abilities that are struggling, Ray, you said you struggled with anxiety. Well, guess what? Looking back, I didn't know it at the time. I was having anxiety attacks, and I couldn't figure out why until later. So it's so different for people. I know Ray talks about books, too. For me, I'm going to tell you guys, I am ADD, and I will start a conversation, and it's so hard for me to sit down and read. And you know what? I found so much guidance in Google. This is so funny. I've Googled stuff and, specific references, but being able to connect to other people, I think, is the biggest deal. And they are some goofy little videos on YouTube called Spirit Science, and this is little kick-ass cartoon videos that tells you everything about astral projection, psychic abilities, all this crazy shit, which is great. It's great. It's very informative if you're like me and ooh, there's a kitty, and can't sit still very long.
Oh, I will be YouTubing up a storm tonight.
I love it. Spirit, it's great.
Telling you, keep all those black-eyed kids away from me. I got to tell you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Another thing I like to do, when we go on investigations, I've talked about this in the past. I have my little leather book and I write in it, and it's more, for me anyways, it's more just validation for me, because I still get excited over it when I'm able to pick up messages, and I've done remote readings, and it's still I just become so excited when what I picked up on is exactly whatever the situation was. I've done readings for people in other states where the energy was so strong I was able to connect to it and see, and they send me back pictures or evidence or information. I just become so impressed and excited. So I think just writing it down too really helps, and just taking time. Meditation means a lot of different things to different people. I can't sit and I can't be quiet. I can't just sit in silence. So for me, music and being near water is my way of grounding myself in my type of meditation.
That might be me too, because I'm not good at meditation. I'm not that disciplined.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know. I think it's important for people to know, too, is that we all have different paths, and not everyone's the same. So, that's the thing I realized, because, listen, I had a medium say, hey, you're going to be leading your team as a medium one day. I said, you're full of shit, buddy. I was like, okay, you're full of shit. So here I am on this path of, like, oh, my God, it's been crazy. And like Ray says, you know what the biggest problem with everyone in the world is? Self-doubt, because we have been taught that this shit don't exist, and we need that validation. And every time that I have a reading and I'm like right on, I'm like, oh my God, and I get so excited. I'm like, you're shitting me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Holly I was actually talking about that this week. I was talking about with my buddy that called in, that is listening right now. I was telling him that, hey, I'm going to say some things to you right now, and it could be bullshit, it could be whatever, but this is what I feel, and so I'm just going to tell you this, and I'm just going to be confident that I'm right. And I told him, and he didn't say shit to me, so I'm going to assume that I'm going to assume that I was right about most of that. So we'll see. He'll probably let me know after this, but I have like 30 seconds left. And with that last 30 seconds, I really want to thank both of you for coming on. I'm sorry that we only got you on the last 20 minutes. There's just so
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.